Welcome back to Old Head Reviews, and in this video, we're going to discuss all the things you missed in episode 2 of Moon Knight. Before we go any further, I have to give you a spoiler warning. We are going to do a full review and breakdown of this episode, so if you haven't seen it, leave and come back when you're done. As always, I'm your host, Joey Sparks. Let's get into this week's episode. We start off this week by Steven waking up from last episode and BAM! Lands right on his mug. At this point, he believes what happened last episode is still a dream. He goes to work and sees part of the museum is being roped off from his shenanigans as being Moon Knight. Him and the top flight security go over the camera footage, and this is the first time that Steven and us realize that no one else can see the jackal, only Steven. HR calls Steven and his vandalizing butt into the office so he can be fired, but not without throwing shade at Steven by handing him a flyer to a mental health group. HR asked him for his name tag, and it's almost symbolic the way he has to give up his name tag and the way he has to hand over his body to Mark and Moon Knight. It's almost like he's giving up who he really is. After that, we see him sitting with his homeless street performing friend, Crowley, and he states to Crowley he's about to prove to himself that he's not mad. Notice he said himself. Steven eventually hunts down the storage unit, kind of like me hunting down Oreos in the middle of my sleep, and he finds it full of Mark's stuff. My man Mark been hustling and got a bag full of cash of different types of currencies. He got a blicky, a passport, and a scarab that be doing some like navigation type stuff. Mark starts to holler at Steven through the reflection, and it's at this point that Steven starts to accept that he's bona fide nutty and dips out, only to be chased by Khonshu until he ends up in the middle of the street. If you're enjoying the content so far, please do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. Let's get back to the review. Layla, Mark's mystery phone boo thing, pulls up just enough time to get Steven ghost. It's revealed that Layla is Mark's wife on the way to Steven's crib. Steven shows the scarab to old girl right before a pair of jakes knock on the door. Layla slips out the window like me slipping out early to beat traffic, and the one time takes Steven in for a fake passport. Find out that those cops, they actually work for Arthur, and they take Steven to Arthur's compound. Arthur gives us a Throwback Thursday rundown on how he used to be the avatar for Khonshu, but they broke up, and now he's trying to get with Amit instead. But he needs the scarab to do that. Steven says he doesn't have it, and then all of a sudden, what do you know? Layla shows up with it. She gives the scarab to Steven, and they get ghost. Arthur summons another jackal from the ground, and that jackal starts chasing him. Layla starts begging Steven to put on the suit, and Steven begins to break down like Kanye on a campaign trail. The jackal busts in the room, but only Steven can see it. Steven gets thrown out of the window, and before he lands, we see him change into Mr. Knight. Mr. Knight is like the three-piece suit wearing alter ego of Moon Knight. Mr. Knight and Layla begin to fight the jackal, but they still need help. So Steven finally gives Mark the body. And boom! Instant Moon Knight transformation. Moon Knight is chased across the rooftops by the jackal until he body slams the jackal into some sort of spike. Mark gets rid of his costume and then checks his pockets to realize that he fumbled the scarab. He has a convo with Steven in the broken glass, and we get hip to whichever personality is in the reflection has a harder time getting back to gain control. They head out to Egypt to catch up with Arthur before he finds Amit's tomb. I mean, this episode is phenomenal. Let me count the ways Oscar Isaac is murdering this role. I mean, he is called upon to play multiple personalities, different accents, and a range of emotions. I mean, come on, we got to give this man his flowers. He even gave me comedic Jim Carrey vibes when he turned into Mr. Knight. Tell me I'm lying. You also have to give it up to that horror scene in the hallway chase. That was super fire. I couldn't believe what I was getting to see. Reflections. Everywhere you go, there's reflections everywhere. So it constantly has you just reminded of the fact that this man is dealing with different personalities. A couple things I saw really quick. I noticed while he's with Layla at his apartment, he spoke that the apartment was his mom's flat. In the idea of Mark being the true body original owner, who is Steven talking to when he's on there? Just keep an eye on that. When Steven calls whoever's listed as mom in the phone, does that lady just think Mark is going cuckoo? I don't know. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Something else that you may have missed was on the car ride to Arthur, The two cops kind of gave a little backstory on Steven, or Mark Spector. First of all, they were saying he was born in 1975, which really the comic that he was first issued in came out in 1975. They gave backstory to an incident where Mark murdered some people out in Egypt. Well, according to the comments, it was really Bushmen who killed the people, including Mark, leaving him for dead at the foot of Khonshu, triggering the whole Khonshu embodiment. And then, throughout my research about Moon Knight, I came across this dope picture in the comics of Moon Knight. And then I noticed during the parkour scene, they almost emulated it. Tell me I'm lying. And lastly, I think the duality between Khonshu and Amit, punishing after or punishing before the crime is committed, a super dope concept for conflict in this series. That'll be it for this week's breakdown. If you enjoyed the content, please consider hitting the subscribe button. We'd love to see you around next week while we discuss episode number 3. If you missed last week's breakdown, go to this video right here. Otherwise, this is Joey Sparks for Old Head Reviews. Appreciate you stopping by, and we'll catch you later. Peace.